This is Shortheimer. It is the 2nd of January 2021, and this is Trading Zones. The year ended not with a whimper, but with higher highs, and we'll see how those pops and quite a few tickers resolves in the new year. But just a great close. Hopefully, everyone had a wonderful holiday, and back on the grind in 2021. So taking a peek at the MES, we're at all-time highs, and we may keep going. Maybe we're going to pull back. But what you want to watch for is watch the open and see if there is buying up above these 3750s. See if we gap up or if we gap down. But what you want to see if we do gap down is that we hold the 3714s, that we hold above this area. That would be beautiful. And we'll see how that plays out. If we do, there's a potential for the buyers to buy this back up. If we roll through those 3714s, watch the 3700s, 3691, then 3667. If we push above the 3750s, because I'm a retracement trader, I don't have anything up there. So I'd have to be utilizing power of pivots to be able to trade those levels. But watch to see if we make higher highs. Just watch these levels. We pull back to this consolidation here around 37.37. Keep an eye on that. That may be a speed bump in case we pull back. But if we do not, if we keep going, there are no ceilings. So we'll see how the year starts out on Monday. And what was also interesting was that you had selling in a lot of the FANG stocks. Like some ran, but there was also some selling, but you didn't see corresponding selling in the futures, right? And so it was just an interesting day watching sort of what, and the volume isn't what it normally is, and that's also to be mentioned, right? But it was just an interesting day watching what tickers people were buying up and what tickers people were sort of rotating out of. Also on the Russell, we saw the pullback a little bit earlier in the week. We bought back up and we didn't close at all-time highs. So we'll see where the Russell goes. We have a lot of bank stocks in the Russell and also a lot of small cap. We have to keep an eye on that to see where that goes. But we popped in a few lines. We are right now above the 1962 area. We'll see if we retrace to the 1943s. If not, watch for a break of the 1990s for room to the 2008 and to the 2019s. And then we'll see if we pop over the 2030s and make all-time highs. We have to see how that plays out. Looking at Amazon, Amazon had a nice run for a few days, hit our 3340s, and we sort of reversed from that point and pull back. I did expect, to be honest, for the buyers to step in around the 3260s, specifically the 68 area. That did not happen. So in watching this, what we want to remember with Amazon is that we were in this sideways consolidation area, right? The 3080s to the 3220s. And if you look back through here, for quite a few months, we were unable to, I'll say, yeah, I'll say about a month, right? A month and some change. We were unable to find any buying above the 3220s. We couldn't see bullish candles above this area. And each time we tried, we sort of retraced right back into the channel. Now on this run, this sort of popped these previous levels that we've seen for the last 45 days or so, sort of popped through that, and the buyers were squeezing this. and now we have the sharp pullback. So what I'll watch for is if we hold above the 3220s, they could buy this back up, right? If we pop back over the 3268 area, then there's a potential we can run all the way back to the 3340s. But first up, watch this previous clothesline right around this. Well, hold on a second. 3254. So we pop here. I would watch this previous level here because you see these tops on the 27th of October. And what we see is that we here, where is this? 32, 3340s. Back to here. Get another flare in a row. So that, you know what I wonder? You know, it'd be interesting. Look what happened here early November, right? We had an extension from down here around the 3111s that took us over the next few days all the way to 33, near 3370 almost, a little bit below that, right? Then we had a retrace or pullback down through 3268 right to about 3230s. Buyer stepped in, pushed us back. We blew through 3340s, 3370s, into the 3380s before having a massive drawdown or pullback to 3190s again. Slight flashback here, 3320s, and then a roll all the way down here, 3020, right below all this sideways action that we have here. So, what to expect, right? I would keep an eye out to see if the buyers step in and push us back above 3268 and we get a squeeze that makes a new high based on this previous wave around 3344s. That's possible, and that will be interesting. If we see that pop, it may go all the way to the 3380s. We'll see if they repeat this setup. If we can't get over 3260s and we then sell back into the 3220s, we're back inside the channel. And maybe we begin to sell a little bit. We'll have to see if the 3190s provide a speed bump that pushes us back over the 3220s. But just remember, the 3220s, that was an area that we had a rough time for well over a month getting bullish action above. We extended through that now. So a pullback to that area, I would expect the buyers to step in if we happen to get that low. But chances are we won't. So we'll see how this plays out on Amazon. But this is an interesting setup. I think that if we pop the 3260, we might see a little bit of a squeeze out of this. It might be very, very interesting. Next up is Netflix. Now, it popped out of this triangle here, and we saw the extension up into the 535s. We pulled back, held the uptrend, and off of the 507s, right, we saw the buyer step in, gave us a nice pop back to the 535s, sold again. This time we held the 523s and we pushed up into the 542s. If you remember my previous video, what I mentioned was that we did want to see buying up through 535 for squeezing the 542 to open up the 550s. And this may have done that. So we have to see what Monday looks like. But my expectation would be a squeeze through 542s and it'll run into 550s, if not higher. But the buyers do have to want it to do that. So we'll see. Never try to guess where something is going. So this setup right here, we want to break back over 542 and we want to squeeze in the 550s. We might get that. If you remember what we mentioned also with Netflix, when it's down in the 460s, 470s, down in this area, start looking for a long setup. When it crosses the 550s, start looking for a short setup. Now, we've seen numerous tickers, right, that have that setup where it gets to a certain area and it seems as if the buyers are just jumping ship, the sellers are piling on, and it reverses and begins to sell. So maybe this time up here, news will come out and they'll pop through the 560s and 570s, and this thing goes on an insane run into the 600s. That's possible, right? But as traders, what we tend to do is we keep doing what works until it stops working. So let's see what happens as the air gets thin. If we push through the 550s into the 560s, let's see if the air gets too thin for Netflix and it retraces the trend, if not lower. So this is an interesting setup. We want 535s to hold. We want to push through 542s to open these upper areas here in Netflix. I'm not going to get into any fundamental information about vaccines, people going back to work. Those are in some of the previous videos where we discussed that. And if you're interested in sort of digging into the thesis on that, just listen to one of the videos in the last 2 or 3 weeks where we do mention it. NVIDIA is just right now, it's not really going anywhere. And watching NVIDIA, I would like, let's say I'm bullish, right? So we're above the 514s, which is not a bad thing at all. So looking at NVIDIA, what we do want to see it do, if we want, a little bit of upside, is a break of 536, and in reality, a break of this 547 area. Above that, I believe we could extend all the way up into the 580s. We'll see. But the 555s are right above. Then we have the 580s. So we'll see how NVIDIA plays out. If we drop through the 514s, I keep my eye on the 475s. But before we even get down there, you see that we may see a reversal here. Look at this structure right across the 514s. Hold on, not 514s, the 505s. Right in here. Look at this little structure here. So right around the 502s to 505s, I keep an eye on that if we do happen to roll through the 514s to see if we see buyers step in. But we will see what happens with Nvidia if the year opens and people are bullish and they're trying to get the last little bit out of tickers, or people are selling, which is also something to watch for as we approach tax time. If people are beginning to sell some of these tickers as we head into tax season, so that's also something interesting to keep your eye on with not just Nvidia but multiple tickers. Facebook, interesting all week. Um, Definitely took this quite a few times during the week, and this is something to watch on Facebook, right? This 279 area is what we call our trapdoor area. Above that area, we're more bullish. Below this area, we're a little bit more bearish. So looking at Facebook, we did pull back to the 270s, and that's an interesting area. But the area that I would want to see is the 267s, right, which is an area bounced numerous times in the past, or in the near past. So for this, I want to see a push up into the 277, 279 area. And we really do need to get above these 280 60s to open up the 291s. So I'll be watching for that on Facebook to see if we get a buy here. If we begin to sell and we go through the 267s, that opens up the 264s, which then opens up the 261s. But if you look back over the last few dips, once we hit those 264s, 265s, it seems as if the buyers have an appetite and they step in there, and the sellers lose their appetite and they jump ship or they bail out here. So if we get to sell through those 264s with volume, I would watch out for the 261s, then potentially the 254s when it comes to Facebook. But if we hold and we pop up over the 279 area, if we can be bullish above here and get a squeeze through these 280 60s, we could see a run to the 291s. This is Apple. We see these levels. interesting. But what you want to, what I'm watching on Apple, I'll say what anyone else wants to watch. What I'm watching on Apple, it reverses expected here. What I'll be watching for on Apple is a pullback to this uptrend and see if buyers are interested in stepping in at that at that at this level, right? So if we pull back into the 128s, 127s, 129, see if buyers step in. And if we get a push back up, this is an uptrend that we've been riding. We'll see if that maintains as we head into the new year. You may have all type of fundamental information, whatever's going on with Apple. That's great. I'm just watching this technical setup. And with the vaccine being dispersed, I think a lot of Apple stores may open back up. You never know. So that's something that for me, I'll be watching for on Apple, just on intraday swing setups. But definitely watch this trend line. This is on the 4 hour chart, and we're watching those upper 120s to see if we pull back to there and the buyers step in. If the buyers hold us above that, we might see a squeeze into the 134s and maybe up to the 137s. But what you really want if you're bullish is you do want these 130, 138.60s to go away, and you want this bad boy to run. We'll see how that shakes out. Intel. Um, what we mentioned on Intel was we wanted to see if on after the sell would we see buyers in the 45s. We did, right? Would the buyers hold 47s? If not, would we see buyers in the 45s? We did. Had a little news come out, and we see that we're running back up. Now, what we want is a regain of the 5111s, and then we potentially have room into the 50, 5350s. But this is definitely interesting. We want this high here around 5070, 5068s to go away and for us to squeeze to the 51s. If we do not, and we retrace to the 4916s, we do want this little hitch here into the 48 40s to hold. If not, then we have room down to 4727. Microsoft. What we mentioned in Microsoft before, above the 217s, watch for the extension into the 221s or higher. We got that. We got a pullback. Buyers sort of pop this back up. We want to see if the 221.70s holds. If so, then there's room to the 229s, and that would be interesting. But not sure how much room Microsoft has here. We have to sort of see how the year opens up and how the week is. But above the 217.70s, we're more bullish than not. But once we get up into these mid to upper 220s, you have to be careful here. Just look back at these previous levels, right? This one is the mid 220s. This is the upper 220s. And it seems as if as it pushes up to those areas, the air gets thin and the sellers get bold, and it seems to push us back down. So just waiting to see what's happening on Microsoft. If you drew a trend line across here, it appears as if the trend line, the uptrend line, has been broken. So we'll see how that plays out at the beginning of the week. But the levels that we have above 217 are 221, 229.50s, and 231. Below that, we have 215.80s, 213.20s, and 208.05. GOOS below the 3028s. Look for a short setup. So we'll see anything that you get short this, watch this sort of against the 3028s. Each person may have different levels, but this is the level that I'm watching here. If we sell, it opens up the 2610s, 2419s, and 2380s to the upside. If a bid comes under this and we can get through the 3020s, we have the 3230s, the 3370s, and the 35 60s, it looks like. So this is interesting. I am more bearish than not on this, thinking that it will go down a bit, but that remains to be seen. We'll see how this plays out in the upcoming week, how excited people are. about about GOOS. CMG. We did sell back below those all-time highs, and we are above the 1390s. What we would like to see, if you're bullish, is a buy up back over the 1390s and a potential squeeze back into the 1420s, if not higher here. We'll see how this plays out. If we remain below the 1390s, this does open up the 1348s. We could sort of drift down to this area and maybe lower. You do want the buyers to step in here. You would expect the buyers to step in there and sort of push us back up a bit. Maybe not to 1390, 1394, maybe to 1380s or 70s. But we sort of have to wait to see how this plays out. But this is an interesting pattern. We could be in for a nice bit of selling. We just have to watch these different technical levels. But I would definitely keep an eye on the 1340 48s to see if the buyers step in there in case we get down there, or watch for a pop over 1390s. McDonald's, we're above the 21340s. At this point, you want this area to hold and squeeze into the 21690s and extension to 221s potentially. We'll see how that works out. But from this lower level, an extension up here around the 219s would still be pretty good, right? So let's see if that plays out. If we hold these bottoms here, you see them here, here, and we get an extension through the 216s. That would definitely be interesting. If we can't hold 213s, watch out for the 20940s and then the 20620s on McDonald's. CI, we were mentioning that watch out for the 202s on this sell. We need to get over 202s. We did. We saw a run and a squeeze into the 208s. We're above the 206s. Let's see if this buys back up to 215. So this is an interesting setup here. A pullback and back test of 202s to the 200 hole would not be bad. We have to see how far this this extension goes up, but I would be a little bit more bullish on Cigna, especially with the change in the White House. We'll see how that plays out for some of these insurance tickers that have kind of been on a little bit of pressure, right? So we'll see how this works out for them if we see more buying and we see a squeeze here. Tesla went Tesla. You know, we're at the 713-ish area, right below it at 704. We did push up into that intraday RTH on Thursday. So we want that to hold, right? We want the 651s to hold if it back tests. And what you really want if you're bullish is a run into the 780s. Is that possible? Yes. And to look at this as if it's a bridge too far, just look at the buying when we dipped off of the 568ish area. I think that's what we pulled back to. Buyer stepped in, and now we're almost pushing through the 700 area. So I'll keep an eye on Tesla and any news related to SpaceX or the Boring Company to see how news in those specific tickers may affect Tesla as a whole. But definitely a nice run. ZM, and if we look at ZM, what's interesting is each time we pull back to the 370s, 375s, the buyers just stepped in, pushed us back up. And here we didn't get quite the run that we're used to on these retrace setups, but we did get separation below the 375s. And look at this selling, just lower lows. What can we expect next week? Well, unless there's some drastic news about, I'll say at this point, the vaccine, because I don't think there's really anything else that's going to come that's going to be earth shattering as far as coronavirus and the those that are struggling to get over that illness. That I don't think there's anything that can happen with the numbers really, unless it's something insane that would change the trajectory or the path that the economy is on of getting people back out to work, right? Eventually, and the vaccine is what we're we're watching and counting to get that to happen, right? So if everyone gets back to work, tickers like Zoom, work from home tickers go down. So the levels I'll be watching, if we stay below 375, there's 346 areas one. The next up is 301 and 295s, and then 281 below that. If we do happen to pop over 375s, that does open up the 407s, the 401s, 407s, 430s, then potentially the 460s if it gets crazy. Goldman Sachs continues to squeeze to the upside. Slight pullback here. The 240s held, been pushing up ever since. We'll see how financials do. They're definitely always a good watch when earnings seasons begin because they tend to report and then information comes out um, uh, pretty quickly. So, looking at Goldman Sachs, I don't have a play here. Just looking at the setup, um, it could go down, it can go up, it can go sideways. But if we do get back below these 262s, I will keep my eye open for the 255s and 249s and 243s. If we continue to the upside, watch the 270s, 274s, just to get an idea of which direction that we're going. So we'll see how this works out. And we'll be watching intraday for a good setup on Goldman Sachs. SPY looking insane, just nonstop, man. Even this pull up couldn't break the back of this rally. Look how steep some of these things are. So head into next year, just be careful as the year opens up to see how the headline risk and the different things that different either political party may come out with, whatever they're presenting, and whatever they're doing to sort of put their stamp on things. Just be careful. Trade light when the year opens if you need to, because remember that the trading is like a cycle, right? What happened to work in the first quarter may not work in the second, third, or the fourth quarter. So you definitely have to keep an eye out on some of these setups and be super intuitive to figure out what the information that's being pushed out may mean, for the market and for some of your investments. But just really interesting. Keep an eye, see if we make new highs, if we get this squeeze up through here and run through 378. We'll see how that works out. But thank you so much for your time. If you happen to like this video, please don't hesitate to go to our to go down to click like at the bottom, tap that like button. And if you'd like to receive more videos like this, please go to our YouTube channel, Power of Pivots, where you can get great videos from Elisa as she discusses how she utilizes her Power of Pivot script to find great entries intraday, post-market, pre-market, and great swing trade setups. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the new year, and just look forward to having another amazing year. Thanks.